Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to North Shore Live, Cooper's Corner. We are live this evening. Chilly night. This is November the 19th, 2014. Almost turkey time. That's next week. We want to make sure that everybody gets their fair share of shopping in. And please be careful because the weather is changing. And whether it be cold or a little bit icy out, drive very carefully. Please drive very carefully because accidents do happen, and it might not even be your fault. Cars do slide, and people are not quite sure of how to handle a car on called black ice. You can't see it. It's on the highway. Just drive slowly and carefully. You want to be able to get to the holiday preparations and family and friends all in one piece. So please be so very careful. And this evening, our program, we are so happy to have Steve Ruohomaki back with us again. He's a wonderful contact person for veterans. He's Lake McHenry County Veterans Family Services. And if you know of a veteran that's having some difficulty, or you yourself are a veteran and would like to talk with someone because, you know, this is seasonal, this is problematic for a lot of people, family, friends, not to be alone, be with someone and be thankful that you're here in America, and we will find help for you, whatever it may be. Please contact Steve. He's wonderful, and he'll put you in contact with whatever you might need. So this evening we're going to be talking about helping veterans, helping them, coats, if you have gently used coats, or you have apartments, or you're a management firm and you can take a family in and give them shelter, you know, whatever timeline you're able to do that, maybe for a year, that would be able to get them on their feet. Whatever kindness you can bestow, it would be most graciously and humbly accepted, really, truly. Take a veteran in for Thanksgiving if you can. We feed 3 in our house all the time. And but you know, you can contact Great Lakes and tell them that you're just 2 people in the family or 3 people in the family. You'd like to, you know if there's anyone there. You can say you'd like 2 people to come and share Thanksgiving dinner with you, whatever you like to do. They are so grateful, so grateful. I know there are veterans that are here from out of state, don't have any family around. That would be most appreciated. So you can always hear me talk. Let's hand it over to Steve. So welcome, Steve.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, it's wonderful. Always good to have you back. And, you know, this is truthful that the veterans need an outreach of kindness at this particular time. And, of course, Christmas, holiday times,
Right.
Very important,
Right.
very important.
Yes, and, you know, our charge always is to try to get the word out about who we are and what we can do for veterans, and so appreciate the opportunity to be on the program and talk about that once again.
Sure.
But we are a federally funded grant program. The funding came from an organization called SAMHSA, which stands for Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Association, and the grant is administered through the Lake County Health Department. And we are now in the 5th of our 5-year time period, and so we've been around for a while, but we also know that there are still many people who do not know that we're available. Everything that we do is free of charge for veterans, regardless of type of discharge or length of service, if they served in the United States military, they are eligible to receive services from us, as well as their family members, and family is defined relatively loosely. It can be a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and if you have a need, please call us. We can share the phone number towards the end of the
Sure,
program.
well,
if
no, you
you
can
want,
give the
but-
phone number now, it's
yeah,
good.
okay. It's 847-377-8386. Our office recently was relocated from Lake Villa to Grays Lake. We are now at 100 South Atkinson, which is on the corner of Center and Atkinson. So
In Grays Lake.
in Grays Lake, yes. And so there are PACE bus routes that access our location as well now. So we're happy to have people come in, give us a call, whatever. If people have a problem getting to us, oftentimes we can meet them somewhere other than our office, or meet them in their home if they would like us to. And
That's
so,
nice.
call us with the request, and we will do everything we can to link them to a service that will meet the request.
That's
and
good.
so that entails everything from healthcare needs, emergency financial assistance, transportation problems, housing problems, etc. And like you mentioned, we're approaching the holidays, and we know historically that holidays are a time when a lot of people experience severe depression, increased substance abuse, suicide rates go up, and there are a number of organizations in Lake County that are willing to reach out and provide the kinds of things you were talking about.
Yeah.
And so if it's going somewhere for a holiday meal, a place for somebody to just
Talk.
come and meet other people and to have conversation, all of that is available. And we have been doing a lot of different kinds of programs to try to reach out to the community. We have served many, many veterans and their families, and yet we know that probably most of the veterans who are in need have not yet heard about us. And so,
See, that's very important. That's why I consider you on this program so valuable, because you've got the wherewithal to be able to help those veterans that are out there, and yet they're not responding because they're not made aware. We need an awareness. So if you are a veteran, if you know a veteran, Steve is marvelous. His group there will help you find what is necessary, what the need is. Rate for suicide very high, always in the holiday season for anyone, but specifically and particularly for the veterans who carry a very heavy load.
Correct.
They were
Right.
overseas, what they've seen, what they've heard, their lives were in danger, they have to live through this. Maybe they've not told anybody of what their feelings are.
Correct.
And
Right.
then everybody's joyous because of the holiday and the families and the getting together, and perhaps they feel left out, or they can't participate, they can't really join in. And so that's where you guys come in handy.
Precisely. And we're continually challenging kind of the culture that has been a part of the military for many, many generations, which in essence says you don't talk about what your experience was. And so, particularly veterans who've been in combat.
Combat.
And, the horrendous experiences, the death, the threats of death that are continually a part of their life. And then they're kind of indoctrinated, so to speak, in thinking, well, you handle that by not talking about it. You shouldn't share that with anybody. And so they live with that internal
Constant.
turmoil.
It's a constant.
And, one of the common phrases is, well, just forget about it. Well, we know that's not true.
You can't help
you
that.
Can't. No, and you don't forget about it, and some veterans would say, I don't want to forget about it. And so whatever we can do to encourage veterans to talk about it, that's one of the ways that we, the American public, can honor
Yeah.
Their service is by taking time to sit and listen to them share what they did experience. And if I always feel like, well, if you haven't been there, you can't understand.
know.
And my response to that is, I don't pretend to understand completely, but I certainly can care about
Care.
what the experience
What a
was.
wonderful word. I mean,
Yeah.
that's terrific.
And when veterans do open up and they start to share those experiences, they are surprised themselves many times about how it feels. They're grateful, and they can make a connection with fellow veterans,
Sure.
with other people who just appreciate that they do deserve to be honored, and that's part of how they do
Oh,
get
sure. Last week we had one of your gentlemen on. We
Right.
had Tim.
Tim, right,
Yeah, Tim
yeah.
Heine, and he did a good job. We were a little camera shy at first, but I think he warmed up. But he's not an old hand at it like you are already. But he too, he mentioned, he goes out and he talks to them. They meaning the veterans need,
Right.
they need a connection.
Right.
They need a direct connection, and the word that you mentioned, which was outstanding, is caring.
Correct.
Like you said,
Right.
you don't necessarily need to have been in the battlefield with them, but you want them to share this with you because you care about how they are and their health and their well-being. That's
Exactly,
marvelous.
exactly.
That's marvelous.
And I might mention, that all of the staff in our program are either veterans or family members of
Okay.
veterans as well. And so we can understand the military experience because we've had it as well.
They've lived it. You're
Right.
military,
Right.
ex-military, and I've never been in it, but I'm the mother of military, and my husband was in the military. So, and my brothers were in the military. So my uncles were in the military. We come from family that have already given service to the nation to protect us. So
Precisely.
we
Right.
understand when they come back their attitudes, perhaps what they're going through, that they don't want to talk about it, then they do want to talk about it. They get distressed. Sometimes, 50 years go by and no one's saying anything. Then they wind up in their 90s and then they want to say something.
Correct. And there's been a great deal of focus on the World War II veterans, as there
Yes.
should be, this time, and they're in their 80s and their 90s
Yeah.
now, and they're remembering their combat experience. They can we have
Clear as a bell.
correct.
They
correct.
remember
they can tell
that
vividly,
very
what they went through.
vividly, very
Right.
vividly.
Yeah. And so we've done a program several times in the community called Managing the Memories of Combat, where we invite a combat veteran to come in and share his experience, and we invite the public to attend that event. So the whole point is, since you are going to remember it, then the challenge is how are you going to manage that memory? And what we are trying to challenge are the veterans who are managing that memory by struggling with it and using mood-altering substances or isolating themselves or, in some cases, committing illegal acts and getting in trouble with the law,
yeah.
et cetera. And so we would much prefer if they could talk about it rather than handle it in that way.
Are you saying that the stress that they were under in combat, when they come back, that leads to these problems, this illegal or drugs or alcohol?
Well, yes. I mean, they're all
Really?
human beings, and those
Yeah.
are the experiences of human beings.
They do
certainly.
that to what? To camouflage it, to hide it, or to soothe themselves?
Right. They're, believing that they're not supposed to talk about it, and so
They have to
then
do
they're
something.
not understood or appreciated. And I can say confidently, I mean, you can't go to combat and come back and not be different in some ways.
Yeah.
That's not to say everybody who goes to combat has got a problem with that, but everybody's got to manage.
Steve, that's a life-altering experience. We've not experienced it. I mean,
Correct.
when you have a rifle in your hand and it's your life or theirs, the enemy. I mean, you have to be able to take charge. They've not ever killed a person before, but you can't hesitate.
Right.
It's your life or an enemy's life. Now, so what do you want to be? So they have to live with this 1 time, 3 times, 5 times. I mean, that's what they have to do. And although we send the Marines in to do all the dirty work first, and everybody else comes in, on the sidelines, that's a pretty heavy number.
Well,
really
and
heavy
right,
number.
and you're talking about 3, 4, 5 times.
Yes.
I mean, this is something that is not necessarily in our history, that members of the military have been called upon to deploy and redeploy several times to a combat zone. And myself, I'm from the Vietnam era, and more, there was a draft at that time, and so there was always a replenishment of new troops coming in. But since we're now in a volunteer status, many of the members of the military have been called upon to return several times to combat, and I myself don't pretend to know what is that going to be like as they return.
Hard.
And
Very hard.
they have struggles getting reacclimated to their civilian world,
And then they have to go back.
and then have to go back.
Oh.
You come home, and then you begin to readjust to your home environment, and then you have to
And
go
go
back
back.
again, et cetera. And then, often what's waiting back at home for them is not what they would have expected. We're, as a country, much better now at receiving our service members back and welcoming them and honoring them.
Yes.
However, the employment world being as it is, et cetera, it's like there's often, some very major struggles in terms of trying to find a job.
Job
I
position.
mean, there are jobs, but often they're underemployed. They're, disappointed with what kind of work they
And
can
it's
find.
a very sad situation. We sit here tonight in a studio where there may be on the outside some veterans that are huddled under a bridge,
Yes,
under a
right.
a overpass in the cold. They're sleeping in boxes. They're considered derelicts. But they've given service to the country.
Right.
But the society is not making themselves aware of the fact that these young men and women have put their life at risk to protect us, the civilians here in America.
Right. And you mentioned the homeless. That is one of the needs that is not filled completely. We struggle regularly with trying to find appropriate housing for people. There are, again, several programs out there. There is housing available, but the most difficult need to try to address is when we need emergency, immediate housing. And a lot of programs have waiting lists, and it can take weeks or several months to, for a vacancy to open up. And if you're homeless today, it's hard to say you have to wait for 6 months before
This is
we can.
impossible.
Yeah. And so I always like to add the appeal to the public in terms of any landlords, people who rent any kind of property, if they're willing to offer up a discount, a reduced rate, whatever, please let us know, because
sure,
we're
sure.
always looking for more than we.
So,
heard of.
here you go. There's the camera. You can look in there and just tell them, or, that you need a management company or rentals wherever you are. Go ahead, do take
Right.
it.
Well, I mean, I've kind of said it, but
Yeah.
any kind of housing, for families, for individuals, if there's anyone who has something to offer, we would appreciate knowing that you are willing to do that, and we will attempt to link someone in need with that service.
For veterans,
Yeah.
absolutely, for
Yeah.
veterans, yeah.
Yeah.
And what about like the clothing issue? And now it's winter, it's gently used clothing. maybe they would call you and say they have no clothes, coats, what?
Yes, there's another organization that we work very closely with on a very regular basis. It's called the Veterans Assistance Commission, and they have an arrangement with the Salvation Army that where they can send people to the Salvation Army to receive clothing.
Is there a charge for that?
Often no.
No charge, okay.
And for those who would have things to donate, the Veterans Assistance Commission will receive the donations,
Okay.
and if the donations come through their organization, they have an arrangement with the Salvation Army whereby the Salvation Army will provide vouchers. So
Okay.
we donate, our belongings as we want
That's
to
right.
get rid of them, then the Salvation Army gives the Veterans Assistance Commission credit for those donations, and so then it's passed on to those
Okay.
who need.
What deeply concerns me is the fact that, that I'm giving this merchandise, gently used clothing,
Correct.
men's, boys' clothing, or coats, for whatever,
Right.
and that someone would be selling it. I don't want anyone to have to buy it.
Right.
I'm giving it so someone could have it
Correct.
to wear,
Right. And-
not to buy it,
Yeah.
because every penny is so precious to them. I don't mean for them to purchase it. I mean for them to have it.
Right, right, and that's what can happen.
It's a gift.
Yeah,
It's a gift.
right.
It's a gift.
And that's what can happen. And there are, again, other organizations that do things similar. So again, we know many of those organizations,
yeah.
and we can most certainly assist in that area.
So, talking, communicating, talking about their situation, their services that they've provided for the government, all the places they've been, what they've seen, that's one thing. That's a talking kind of a
Right.
therapy or whatever. We wouldn't call. Would you call that hands-on? A hands-on therapy?
Well, the words are secondary.
Okay.
I've myself been a therapist for many years, in all of my adult life actually, and that's one of the services that I provide as a member of the staff of this organization. And that's a word that scares a lot of people away. It's like you have to declare that there's something wrong with you, and that unfortunately, is a word that probably chases more people away than draws them in. But
Really?
that's who we are and that's what we do. But we were just having this conversation last evening in our advisory
really?
group, and I said, let's just
Wow.
call it conversation, because that's what it
Conversation.
is.
Yeah.
And that's what I call myself. It's like, well, what do I do as a therapist? I facilitate
Yeah.
the healing of the mind, and how I do that is I have conversation.
Yeah, they get to talk
and
about
it's a
it.
dialogue.
Sure.
And, we can do that individually, and we can do that in groups. We like to get a group of people together who have a similar issue or concern, and they learn from each other. They
Sure.
share their struggles, they give each other suggestions, feedback,
Struggles.
support, exchange telephone numbers
Yeah.
to call when you feel like talking and you don't, it's a line that I use with myself. And I need somebody else to help me think sometimes.
Listen,
it's like,
we're human beings, Steve.
Correct,
If
right.
we don't communicate with one another, who else can we talk with
Exactly.
and get feedback
Right.
from? You can talk to a plant, but it's not going to give you some information on what you should do, because maybe the other person has more information and can help you with what you need.
Precisely. I love the moment when I'm talking with someone and they say something,
Wow.
and in my own mind, my thought is, I know I would have never thought of that.
See,
and
look.
had you not told me, I would
See?
have never known. And, we
That's terrific.
exchange that kind of substance in the conversation.
That's terrific. So conversation is good. People need communication. They don't need to be isolated, because actually the veteran, when they're told, or they're assuming that they were told not to talk about it, you're isolating them. They can't handle that.
Right.
Who could handle that?
Exactly.
You're in an area with community, and you can't tell, you can't talk about it.
Well, we also deal with many people from the Vietnam
Yeah.
era. And of course, at that time, this country didn't do so well at welcoming the combat veterans home
Back,
from
yeah.
Vietnam. And we had a gentleman on not so long ago
Yeah.
on your program who shared his experience.
Yeah.
And he,
Mr. Solo, absolutely.
yeah.
Soto.
And so,
Caesar,
know,
Caesar Soto.
correct.
Yeah.
And so we have, I often think we have yet to truly heal from the Vietnam experience, much less what's transpired
And he's
since
still
then.
carrying it, he still
Right.
carries it.
There's the pain, there's the
The
anger.
hurt is
these,
severe,
correct.
severe.
And, so I know some years ago I had a colleague who was a combat veteran from Vietnam, and it was when the Vietnam Mall first was built, and they had the traveling wall, and it came to this area for the
Yeah.
first time, and I remember him sharing with me what a profound experience that was. And one of the things he was telling me is that the Vietnam vets were saying welcome home to each other because nobody else said that to them. And
public didn't
now
accept
it's-
them.
Yeah, and so we did not do well at differentiate what might have been our own opinions politically and otherwise about the war versus how we felt about those who were serving. And at that time we did have a draft, and one of the things I say is everybody had to do something
Yeah.
with that experience. You either volunteered to go in, or you were drafted.
And you had to
whether
go
you
in,
wanted
that's
to,
it. Yeah.
or if you didn't do
or they
that,
took off
exactly
for Canada.
precisely.
They
And
didn't
so
want to go.
there were
yeah.
a lot of different choices that people had to
You
make.
could do
in
it
terms of what to do.
honorably or dishonorably.
Right.
I don't even know at this time. Maybe you could clarify that for me. Those who left for another country, are they still? Can they come back or not?
Mostly, yes. I can't, attest to what
They can't.
all of them have chosen to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I do know there are some, who did come back. I believe it was President Ford granted the
amnesty,
immunity.
yeah.
And there are
So-
certainly others who got settled and comfortable to wherever they went. Many went to Canada.
Yeah.
And live there to this day. I also know, we weren't necessarily as wise as maybe we are now, or at least we got a little wiser about appreciating the emotional and mental injuries of combat experience, and so we weren't as attentive to the adjustment problems. And I was a mental health practitioner in the military as well, and I know there are people who may have come back to this country, but they did not reacclimate really to society. They found it more comfortable to build a shack in the woods or whatever and
just,
isolate
yeah.
themselves and stay there.
Isolate them. They become
Right.
hermits. They become,
Exactly.
yeah.
Right. And they certainly weren't, in a general statement, they weren't welcomed home, and so the resentment and the anger that
Terrible.
resulted from that continues to this day for many of them. And so, again, that's another appeal that we make in terms of please make the connection to us, come in and talk. We will listen, we will help connect you to other people, similar age, similar experiences, to support each other.
And that's so important because they have to acclimate. This is where they've come from. Maybe their families don't understand them. Maybe it's difficult. They become short-tempered. They don't want to hear about things. They walk out. They leave. There's divorces that are caused by this. Families are broken by this. Children don't know what's the matter with daddy. They don't understand,
Right.
And so if you can help, if you can help, Steve is willing to, lend a hand as well. So we need to get the information out.
Right. Yeah. And again, it's like understanding may be the wrong word. It's caring.
Caring.
It's like you don't have to
Caring.
have had exactly the same experience.
But you care
as
enough
someone
about
else,
them,
But you
yes.
can care what they've gone through.
Yes,
and
yes.
appreciate that.
With compassion,
Right, yeah.
absolutely, with
And
compassion.
I personally, I think you can't not be different. I mean, that's true for all of us.
Oh,
We
we're
change
human.
because of the
Yeah.
experiences we have, whether they're good ones or bad ones.
Yeah.
We change because of those experiences. And, you know, those of us who have not had the combat experience, I don't know, you know, are typically connected to what it would be like to be under threat continuously. Like a
yeah.
combat veteran, maybe it's like every day you're literally under threat, you know, life and death threat.
Yeah.
We, you know, may experience being a victim of a crime or whatever, but not steadily for a year.
That's
know.
that's 24/7.
Right, right.
24/7.
And so
Yeah,
that's
that's
the best word I can use is that's different. And, you know,
and
you can't-
caring is an outstanding word. Caring, compassion, understanding, extending your hand for the person themselves. They were talking about veterans this evening. Can you help? Can you show some care, some love, and some compassion? Holidays are almost right upon us, and if you can do something for a veteran, contact Steve. Tell him what you want to do. If you've got apartments or manage apartment buildings, or if you've got furniture, or if you've got food or donations, clothing, stuff for children, contact Steve. He will make sure that it goes to the right location. And if you want to have a veteran over for Thanksgiving because they are without family, or if you can handle a veteran that may be handicapped, that would be outstanding. You know, there are a lot of families that would like to do this, but they don't know how to go about it.
Right.
Better give your number again, Steve.
Sure, that's 847-377-8386.
And so if someone calls and says, listen, we saw you on cable and we'd like to donate clothing, okay, you can tell them where to go.
We can help them
okay.
arrange that, right.
We saw you on cable and we'd like to, you know, we have apartments or something for a veteran family. You can do that. You can help them with that. You can connect the right people to that apartment or
Right,
whatever.
right.
And if they just want to talk, they just want to talk.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You're there. You're
Right.
there.
Often, you know, people call with a certain request, and as they, you know, get connected to us and we start talking, you know, and getting to know them, they realize that there's other kinds of things that we can do for them as well. And sometimes in a specific request, we can respond to it and resolve it for them, but then we like to stay in contact with them to follow up and see how they're doing. And sometimes, you know, there are other issues that come up
yeah.
later in their life, or they just appreciate being able, whether it's talking over the phone or
To
coming
connect,
into our office,
yeah.
or
It's connection.
Yeah,
It's
correct.
a connection.
yeah,
And we should also mention that you could try the churches. Some churches have dinners, you know, Thanksgiving dinners. The churches, there's Salvation Army to always go to. So you're not alone. Understand there are other veterans that are going to be
right,
there.
yes. And we can add to that the veterans, the VFW, Veterans of
Oh,
Foreign
the
Wars, and the
VFW,
American
that's right.
Legion, as of
The
many of
American
posts.
Legion, they contact them, ask them if they're having Thanksgiving dinner, if you could participate, if you can come to a dinner, what, you know, where it's at, what time it's going to be, and you'd like to come, and that would be fine.
Right.
There's no
Yeah.
charge for any of that. I don't
No,
think they ever charge.
we recently had a meeting with the district commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars organization in this area, and what he kept stressing to us was that, you know, the VFW is really changing. They're not only a social club. It's not just a place to go and socialize with people, but they're really committed to providing services that are needed. So they're trying to reach out to all ages
Yeah.
and make that connection. And again, it's another place to share what you've been through and meet other people and build your support system.
I know that certainly, like I say, the VFW and the churches and the Salvation Army and organizations like that, even the Red Cross. I think the Red Cross could show you where or let you know if there is going to be Thanksgiving dinner and when they're going to hold it. Don't be afraid or ashamed to ask. We are all Americans. We're here to help you. We're here to assist you. We want you to be happy. We want you to know that other people care and other people are having the same problem. So when you go to these functions, the gentleman or lady next to you could tell you probably that they have had the same problem. Their horror story may be worse than what yours is. And yet they're there because someone cares enough to invite them to come. Be bold enough to be able to ask when, where, and how do I get there, and that will be that would be one step that they could do.
There's another organization, if I might mention.
Sure.
It's actually it's the court system in Lake County. There is a designated Veterans Court in Lake County, and we have a foundation that supports our work, and they have sponsored a number of training programs and including for the law enforcement personnel, and to facilitate better understanding of veterans who do get into difficulty with the law. This is not, you're not going to be relinquished of your obligations or responsibilities from whatever difficulty you've encountered, but there's also going to be help. So if anyone does get into difficulty with the law in any fashion, some police departments have actually adopted a policy that the officer should inquire whether or not someone is a veteran. And, but even if that doesn't happen, for the families or the individual themselves, it's like if they let the legal authorities know that they are a veteran, they can possibly be adjudicated through the Veterans Court, which is going to work very, very hard to try to address whatever the problems are as well. And we also work, very closely with
And that would
them.
be interesting because perhaps there are those that are, they have substance abuse, they're alcoholic abuse, drunk driving, or whatever, so they need...
Right. It can be another avenue to receive help for
they
those.
need some assistance. So if you are a veteran and you wind up in a court because of drunk driving, or you've created a problem or hit a lamppost or whatever, you need to tell the authorities that you're a veteran, that you're just back from wherever you were or whatever the length of time. We don't know if this has been bothering them for a long time or not. They're a veteran, and that they would secure you with the appropriate people to be able to follow through or be beside you when going into court, because you are a veteran. Something very important to know. We take great pride in being able to assist you and want to assist you. You need to let them know. If you are a veteran from any of the wars, and the professionals are there, please tell them. Let them extend their caring to you. If they've not been overseas, they don't know what you've been through, and they're willing to help. Let them do their job. Let them help. Let them help by whatever means, whatever the situation may be. If they have to pay whatever for the replacement of a telephone pole, or if they run up on a sidewalk, or whatever it is, but let them know that you're a veteran, and you need help. That's all. That's all.
There's a couple other things I'd like to mention, if I
Sure,
can.
go ahead. Go
Number
ahead.
one, I did mention that our office has been relocated to Grays Lake from Lake Villa, and we are going to have an open house
Nice.
at the new office, and that will be on December 10th from 3 p.m. until 7 p.m.
Wow.
Just come over and we'll give you a little tour of the offices. You have a chance to meet all of our staff and
That's
just
nice.
have a conversation with
Oh,
us.
that's very nice.
The other thing I wanted to mention is that we have an advisory group in Lake County that is that meets at the Lake County Health Department on the third Tuesday of every month. I might mention, not in December. There will not be a meeting in December, but back again. We just had the meeting last night. So the next one will be the third Tuesday of January. It's at 6:30 in the evening. It's in the third floor conference room at the County Health Department's headquarters.
In Waukegan.
3010 Grand Avenue
Yeah.
in Waukegan. Anyone with any interest or services to offer, it's a good place to come. Share ideas, network, let us know that you exist and what you do. And so it's a place where we try to pull together all of our resources and talk about, future ideas of things we can do that we haven't done. And so many organizations have come and represented
That's good.
themselves there. So,
There
and
is
you
al-
don't have to be an organization either. I mean, if you're an individual,
yeah,
you want to
yeah.
come and you have any interest, please.
That would be
please
wonderful.
Feel welcome to come.
That would be wonderful. Is the idea of this camaraderie based on a model of some sort? Is there? I mean, how did this start? That it's just because now we're pulling people to try to get together. Is there a model that the organizations are following?
Well, I wouldn't say consistently. I mean, in the mental health field, there's certain terminology that's used. Commonly, it's called evidence-based therapy, and there's certain types of therapy, for example, that are used with post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
Cognitive processing. There's another one called exposure therapy. But again, those are the kinds of words that can push people away more.
It's too scary
Those are
for them.
words. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're words.
to-
It's like what we're doing
see?
is we're talking.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, as a therapist, I've been trained and I've had a lot of years of experience, and I have certain skills in that area. So, I use those in how I talk to people. But if you come to a therapy session, you and I are sitting there having a conversation with each other. That's what's happening. And one of the things that I like to say to individuals if they're with me in a therapy session is, my job is to help you find out you're okay, you're fine, But, the issue is we don't believe that, We're all afraid that there's something wrong with us, and, we have many different ways of trying to manage that fear, But one thing we weren't told typically in our childhood is, you're fine.
You're okay. Yeah.
We were told, like, oh, you're probably not good enough in some fashion or other. And so that carries over. It's a common phenomenon amongst all of us. And so people who have not been to a therapist have certain ideas of what that is like, and certain concerns that are
that's
typically
because
not true.
someone else is judging someone else.
Right.
And how can you judge me because you don't know what my life is like? How could I judge someone else? I don't know what their life was like. And I think that's probably the point, is that the wording, the
Yes.
labeling
Right.
is the scariest part, because they don't want to be. Who wants to be judged?
Exactly,
If I go over there and I'm fighting for America, don't judge me because I came back stressed out. Judge me on the good that I did. That I was willing to take a chance with my life to go and fight for America. I'm
Right.
there.
Right. Sure.
So that's
Yeah.
see that people, you can't be judged, and nobody wants to be labeled. So
Right.
that's pretty much
That's not something anybody aspires to.
no, and it's not new, Steve. That's
No,
not a new.
not at all.
No.
Right. Yeah.
That's not a new thing. But we're hoping that the adults will be able to gather themselves together enough strength to be able to work out the situation. Because if we're talking family, you're talking little children that are watching the situations going on in a household where daddy is not able to cope with minor situations and either has to rely on alcohol to get him through or pills to put him to sleep or wake him up or whatever. So the children are watching this. We need to make the family whole again instead of
Right.
breaking this this family. They were broken when he went off to war and she was left with the children. And now when he comes back, how do they connect again? It's difficult. She doesn't know what he went through. He doesn't want to tell her. The children are having, their babies or whatever. He can't tolerate the sound, the crying. That's
Right.
pretty hard, Steve.
Right. Right. Yeah. And like you're saying, the labels don't necessarily help.
No.
We're obligated if in our profession to use labels as a way to understand things, and in our case, we don't bill anyone. We don't bill insurance companies. This is, like I said, a grant program, so we're less encumbered by those kinds of things. But I've certainly worked in other situations where you have to have a diagnosis to bill an insurance company. They're not going to pay unless they have a diagnosis
and
to work with.
you are entirely different because you're more caring and you're humanistic to them because you're for the veterans.
Right.
If you go somewhere else, maybe they don't understand that.
Yeah.
You don't go to a shoemaker to get your tooth fixed.
Correct.
You
Right.
need to go to the right party, the right place to be able to get the assistance and services that you need. It's very important.
Yeah. And there's a lot of focus today in this era on peer-to-peer contact, which is an excellent thing. And it's not a complete answer for everything because you and I may be peers with each other in some fashion, whether we're similar age or similar background or whatever, and that makes us a peer. But if I need heart surgery and you're not a surgeon, I don't want you. I might want to talk to you, but I don't want you to do my surgery
How
because
could I
you're
do
not
that?
trained. We need a team of different kinds of skills and experience, including the peers, but
Sure.
not exclusively the peers.
That's a point that I didn't even think of, but you need to go to the one who helps you the most. And if you're a veteran, you need to go to a veteran organization. And they could then help you sort out what you need.
Right, yeah.
All they have to do is call you, let you know
Right.
what they need. You can say, either come in or I'll meet you somewhere, we'll have coffee or something. Is that organization, is that group still going?
That's in the Cup of Joe?
Cup of
Yes.
Joe,
We
yeah.
have 3 groups every week that meet in Lake County. One is at Julie's Coffee House in Lake Villa, Milwaukee Avenue. We have one in Zion.
Zion, okay.
Forgot the name for a minute. At a coffee house called It's All Good, and we also have one on Thursday afternoons at the Veterans Assistance Commission in downtown Waukegan. The Lake Villa one is on Wednesday evenings, the Zion one is on Thursday evenings, and the Waukegan one is on Thursday afternoons.
Okay.
And this is...
That's pretty well covered.
Yeah, it's an informal gathering of veterans. The
And they
coffee
sit
is
down and talk?
Right. Just social conversation. They talk about whatever they feel like. Sometimes they're reminiscing, combat experiences. Sometimes they're talking about politics, whatever. It's not a formal meeting in any way.
But they feel comfortable, see?
Right. It's just a place to come and meet
They're
other
comfortable,
veterans. Right.
yeah.
And while we're mentioning veterans organization,
Sure.
we'd be remiss not to mention that we have an excellent, veterans facility, the Lovell Healthcare Facility
Lovell
in
Health,
North Chicago.
yeah.
And in the work that we do, we encounter veterans who are entitled to services at the VA, but for whatever reasons may not have known that they are, or they had a negative experience somewhere. But we are also available to help people link to what they're entitled to at the VA, if that's the case. So.
And it's interesting that they wouldn't know that they would have entitlement for health services if they were overseas. They served time overseas.
Well, the Veterans Administration does have a different criteria in terms of eligibility. You can say our organization, typically you have to have a minimum number of years of service, and that's typically 2. There are a lot of exceptions. If you had combat experience, you could have less than 2 years and still be eligible. But it's 2 years of service and an honorable discharge. Now, other than honorable, sometimes there's some circumstances where that may qualify as well. But it gets very complicated, of course, because it's the federal government, and there are a lot of different rules, and
Right.
some of those rules have changed over the years, so people may be operating on old information and not realize that there's been a change in the rules, and so...
So how would they get information? Would you be able to?
We know where to take them. We'd be happy
Okay.
to connect them over there, or
Okay.
whatever to facilitate
good.
their connection to determine whether or not they are eligible for care.
Okay, so actually it would be best for all if they would contact you anyhow, and let them tell you that they are a veteran and they might need services, but they don't know. They were told, but they're not sure that they.
Yeah, they're not sure.
They could go to the Lovell Health Care Center.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll help them determine whether or not they are.
Okay,
eligible.
that's wonderful.
And if they are, then we'll help them.
Assist them,
and
sure, get them in there. They might not know what to say or do.
Yeah.
What do I go? Where do I say? Who do I meet?
Right. There's a particular, it's called the means desk. There's a particular location in the hospital where
Okay.
you can go with your discharge papers. Most every military person knows it's the DD-214 form. And that's your official discharge paper. You go and present that paper and some information about your income status. And it's a very simple process. It's easier to do it that way in person if you can. You don't need an appointment. You just walk in, sign the sheet, and wait for your name to be called. You can be in and out of there in a matter of minutes, and you'll receive a letter, informing you of what you're entitled to, if you're entitled to it, and instructions on how you schedule your first appointment.
And I think you need to let the people know where, because this goes all over. So
Right.
It's the Lovell Health Care Center. It's in
the federal healthcare. Yes.
Okay, it's in Great Lakes.
Right.
Great
Yeah,
Lakes
North
Naval.
Chicago.
North
right.
Chicago.
It's on the corner. Yeah.
Go ahead and.
Well, it's 137 Buckley Road and Green Bay. It's on that intersection.
And so if you're a veteran and you need some assistance and you don't know, or you were told that you didn't qualify, I think if you call Steve will give you the update, but he said that the DD-214 is what you would need to present at the desk, and they will let you know what your availability for services would be.
Right.
And maybe they've been quiet all these years and they didn't even know that they had applied.
That is often the case.
But does this also mean that they've lost time with this medical care or whatever? I mean, is it still going to be acknowledged that they have the
If they're eligible, and they
Okay.
can begin that regardless of what transpired,
Before, okay,
historically.
okay.
If they're entitled, then that entitlement is going to last for the rest of their life.
Okay.
And they will be able to receive a very comprehensive
Care, okay,
medical
very
care. I mean, it's a full service medical care facility. I mean, all levels of care, all areas of medicine are represented there. Both, physical medicine, mental health services, substance abuse services. It's all there, that level.
I guess I should bring the picture I have of Jim and Marilyn Lovell. We have a picture where I took their picture.
Oh,
They took my picture. I took their picture. That was when Mark Kirk got married. So from his wedding, I should bring that. I think it would be interesting to show. We don't have much time left, but I need you slowly to tell that you've already moved to Grays Lake. You
Right.
have a new, a new office,
Right.
and you need to tell about the open house that you're going to have.
Yeah, the office is 100 South Atkinson, which
Okay.
is the corner of Center and Atkinson in Grays Lake. It's due north of, we're between 120 and Washington Street.
Okay.
About kind of halfway in between. The open house will be on December 10th from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay,
Okay, we're on the second floor, Suite 203. There's a
excellent.
large 100 above the door.
Wow, all right,
The
the-
entrance to our office.
And a phone number, which is important.
Right, 847-377-8386.
Okay, and you can get Steve, call that number, ask for whatever services you might need. And they'll help you out. They're there. They're going to be there. They've got new office space, so they're going to be there for you. And we hope that you get whatever care that you need. And excuse me. And please remember, this is a holiday time. Thanksgiving's coming up. Then we're having Christmas. Please help our veterans. Help our veterans. We're Americans. Help our veterans. We help everyone. Now it's time for us to help them. A closing statement, if you have.
I guess what I would say is get involved.
Get
We
involved.
have many different ways that can happen, and please step up and introduce yourselves to us, to other service organizations. There's so many different organizations.
And it's
today.
painless.
Right.
It's painless.
Right. Yes.
You don't need Novocaine. You just need to put your hand out and say hello. That's
Right,
all.
right.
That's great. Okay. We don't have much time left, but I really, really implore you to seek out veterans, help them where you can, even if it's for a meal, even if it's for talking, even if it's for conversing, or letting them know that you have veterans in your household. Please help the veterans. Please help the veterans. Contact Steve Ruohomaki at his new office, and we hope that you'll benefit, because he wants to do that for you. We thank you for allowing us in your home or your place of business. We hope you have a pleasant evening, a very safe week. Remember to be very careful. Weather is changing, icy, snowy, and we'll see you next week on North Shore Live, Cooper's Corner, and we're on YouTube. And we hope that you see us on YouTube.